I installed 2 graphics cards in my build, and in most games, I doubled my performance or even more than double. Hello everyone, I'm Mahmoud. Usually, games only use 1 graphics card, so you might ask, what's the point of having 2 in the same build? That's mostly true. And there were technologies that tried to make 2 cards work on one game or program, like SLI, Crossfire, and NVLink, but they ultimately failed. And even the companies that created them moved on for several reasons, which are, first, the bridge connecting the 2 cards wasn't fast enough. Consequently, you couldn't use 2 powerful cards and actually benefit from the tech at any resolution higher than 1080p. The second reason, this tech wasn't supported by all games, and most developers didn't optimize for it. Some games used only 50% of each card, some used only 1, and sometimes performance was actually worse than having a single card, because the workload distribution between the 2 GPUs was poor. Third reason, even if you succeeded and ran a supported game with high FPS, you would get something called micro-stuttering. The frame counter is high, but the game feels choppy, ruining the experience and making you wish you would just stuck with 1 card. Fourth reason, buying 2 cards these days just doesn't make any sense. For example, buying 1 RTX 3070 is better than buying 2 GTX 1660 Ti's. The 3070 will give much stronger performance than the 2 GTX 1660s combined with SLI. You might be like, okay, if you're saying 2 cards are worse than 1 strong card, why did you put 2 in your build? The answer is, I'm not going to use those dead technologies like SLI or Crossfire. Instead, I'm using a program called lossless scaling. Before we talk about lossless scaling, I will mention the technologies that led to the idea. I think most of you know DLSS and FSR. These were created because playing at 2K or 4K on max settings became very difficult and very tasking even for modern GPUs. These technologies lower the game's resolution to something like 720p, then use AI to upscale the quality back to 1080p, for example. The load on the card decreases, frames go up, and the image quality stays close to the original. The second and most important tech is frame generation. As the name suggests, this generates frames using AI by guessing what the next frame looks like and placing a fake frame in front of every real one, effectively doubling your FPS. The benefit, if you have a 165Hz monitor, but your PC can only hit 100 frames, you can cap your FPS at 90, turn on frame generation X2, and get 160 to 180 frames to fully utilize your monitor's smoothness. Or if a game's engine is locked at 60 frames, like Sekiro for example, you can finally get a high refresh rate experience on Sekiro or other games that are locked at 60. These technologies were exclusive to GPUs like the RTX 4000 card series under the name DLSS 3 until FSR 3 came out and made frame generation available for all cards, provided that the game supports FSR 3. But if the game doesn't support it, you're out of luck. And that is where lossless scaling comes in. It provides these technologies for all cards and any game you want, even if the game doesn't support them. One very important thing, this tech usually lowers your base frames, adding input lag, and can make the image look worse if your initial FPS is low. However, this program has a mode that lets 1 GPU render the game and a second GPU handle the frame generation. So, we're going to see, will these negatives decrease by using 2 cards? In case you don't know, lossless scaling is a program that you can get on Steam for less than $4 at the time of filming this video. When you install it, you will see this interface. It might look complicated, but we're focusing on frame generation and scaling in general. The first game that we have for today's benchmarks is Doom: The Dark Ages. We're getting around a respectable 70 FPS, but I have a 180Hz monitor and I want more. And so I will alt tab. I'm gonna select my secondary GPU, the 1660 Ti, and then I'm gonna press on scale. And now when I get back to the game, and now that I'm back inside the game, you can see up here at the top left corner that we're getting around 200 frames, and it's wonderful. I don't see any drops or any issues at all. And I'm playing at ultra settings. So like, I'm playing on ultra settings and I'm not having any issues. The only difference that I am noticing is a tiny little bit of input lag. But even in Doom: The Dark Ages, this isn't something that will ruin your experience. Like sure, I am getting lag, but it's not too much. Like I prefer this over 0 lag, but 60 frames, you know? So overall, the experience is actually quite impressive in Doom the Dark Ages. I'm loving it so far. And sorry for my keyboard noises, but I can't play on controller. So, in Doom the Dark Ages, it is a lovely experience and we can switch to the next game, which is gonna be the legendary Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. As you all might know, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is a game that is locked at 60 frames per second, and so we can't play at more than 60 frames unless we use AI, and so what we're gonna do is go to lossless scaling, press on scale, and then switch back to Sekiro, and just like that, boom, we're getting 200 frames in Sekiro. It is awesome. This technology is just so cool. I have never played Sekiro this smoothly in my life. This is the best Sekiro experience I have ever had, and I have played Sekiro on multiple PCs, and this is just great. Like, it's very smooth. 60 frames are not comparable to 200, especially on a 180Hz monitor, and so the experience overall is absolutely great. I can't even describe how good it feels compared to the 60 frames that I was getting before the lossless scaling app. And as I told you, the only downside is a little tiny bit of input lag that will affect you if you're playing an online game, but it won't really affect you in such a game like Sekiro. Sekiro is not a game that requires the fastest human possible reaction, and so the experience overall in Sekiro is absolutely great. I love it. And we can move on to the next game, Horizon Forbidden West. Right now we're getting 70 frames, which is pretty respectable and a lovely experience. I'm not saying that it's terrible, but we can improve it even further by switching to lossless scaling, press on scale, and then go back to Horizon Forbidden West, and just like that, boom, we're getting 180 frames per second. And honestly, I think Horizon Forbidden West is one of those games that doesn't really love AI generated frames because the grass is looking a little bit weird. I don't know, I could tell that there's something wrong, like it's not as good of an experience as I felt it in Sekiro. Let's real quick just turn that off. Let's turn off the AI scaling and see what happens. And honestly, I do prefer the experience without the AI upscaling. This feels kind of smoother somehow. So, I don't know, I'm quite confused. Let me turn it on again. Okay, the game is smoother. So like, it is smoother, but the grass is looking a little bit weird. I can tell the grass is being a little bit blurry. And so I don't really like it that much. Maybe, if I lower it to 2x, like only 2x and not 4. I think this will give me the best results, or I'm hoping at least. Okay, we're getting 110 FPS. Okay, now this is great. Now this is just absolutely lovely. So we're getting around 112 FPS, but the grass is not being blurry as it was when we were on 4x multiplier. And so the experience in Horizon Forbidden West is also great. And it's also a win in this experience. Double wins so far. And we can move on to the next game. Without any AI generated frames, we're getting around 80 frames per second, which goes to show you that the RTX 2080 is still a great card for 1080p. Anyways, I want more. And so, we're gonna go back to lossless scaling, change it to 4, click on scale, go back to God of War, and now let's see, 186. Holy sh! This is a lot better. I cannot possibly describe to you how much smoother this feels. Like, the difference is night and day. It's not even like a little bit. Like, no, it's really different. It's a lot smoother. And the input lag is not really causing me any issues. Okay, I actually deflected that, but the reason I didn't was because of the input lag. If there was no input lag, I would have deflected that. So like, yeah, maybe some games would be affected by the input lag. Like this time I did dodge, but it didn't dodge really. Okay, I still know how to play this game, I guess. I'm not okay. No, I'm getting damaged a lot. I don't know how to play this game anymore. Anyways, I kind of got used to it. Like, I'm playing it with no issues. I'm not having any trouble, and the game is a lot smoother still than the 80 frames that I was getting. And so this is also another win. I consider this another win for this experiment. As you saw, the experience was legendary, but there are some notes I must warn you about. 1. This whole experience is possible on a single card. You don't really have to use 2 GPUs. The goal of using 2 GPUs was to reduce the negatives, like the input lag and the loss of base frames. Also, you can use frame generation on emulators and videos and even movies. It's not exclusive to only games. Second, this tech is not recommended for competitive games like CS2 because of mouse and keyboard latency, but for story games and games locked at 60 FPS, it's a legendary experience. Third, if your base frames in a game are lower than 45 and unstable, the experience will be worse than not using it at all. The image will look strange and choppy, and no matter how much fake FPS you get, the responsiveness will still feel like 35 to 45 frames. One last important note. I did struggle with a problem. Even though I had a dedicated card for frame generation, the performance was terrible, worse than using one card. After searching, I discovered that the monitor cable must be plugged into the GPU dedicated to frame generation and not the GPU that is rendering the game. If you plug it into the primary card, only the real frames will show up, causing poor performance. After plugging the cable into the frame gen card, go to the NVIDIA control panel, set your primary card as the preferred graphics processor, and do the same in Windows settings. And that's it. Do I recommend that you do all of this? To be honest with you, if you have a cheap card laying around, sure, maybe, why not? But if you don't have a GPU at disposal, I don't really think you should buy 2 GPUs just to use this technology. I would rather buy one powerful GPU than buy 2 GPUs. But if you have an old GPU that you want to use in your setup, this is a great way to use it. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching until the end, and see you in the next one.